Okay, Assalamu alaikum again. I guess we're ready for our second speaker. Our second speaker is Dr. Mohamed Alhassan Abdullah. He's a senior lecturer in medical education, School of Medicine, University of Limerick in Ireland. And he's the co-chair of the Task Force of Social Accountability and Accreditation, the network TUFH. He's also the chairperson of the group on social accountability and at the Association of Medical Education in Eastern Mediterranean region. He held his medical degree or received his medical degree from the Faculty of Medicine, University of Al Jazeera in Sudan. He got a master's and a PhD degrees in health professions education. He is a fellow of the Academy of Medical Educators in the UK. He has an extensive work experience in medical education in various countries in Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Ireland, Sudan, and many other countries. Dr. Alhassan has memberships and affiliations to regional and international organizations that work in health professions education. His publications and areas of research interest in medical education are in the areas of social accountability, teaching and learning, accreditation, and cost and value. And he's going to talk to us about social accountability in health profession. So, Dr. Mohamed, welcome, and please go ahead.
We cannot hear you, Doctor. There is something wrong with the sound. Still, we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now without sharing the screen?
Yes, please. Yeah, go ahead. Very clear. Go ahead, please.
And now when I'm sharing the screen, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Dr. Mohamed, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. All the principles that I'm going to talk about social accountability in medical education are well applied to all health professions education. First of all, to start with is the definition of social accountability in health professions education or in medical education. It is defined in 1995 by the WHO the obligation of medical schools to direct their functions, which are the education, research, and service to the priority health concerns of the community. So we need to be as close to the community as possible. And the addition here in the definition is that those concerns or those priorities should be defined with all stakeholders, including the communities themselves. So it is not only our function to define what should we teach to the students or what our research priorities should be, but we need to have on board all stakeholders with us and to have those relations with all stakeholders to define what is needed to be included in the curriculum, how can we teach it, how to assess it, and what are the priorities of research, and what type of service that we can provide. And most importantly, is to have those stakeholders with us on board when we evaluate our functions, so we are accountable to them. And accountability means we are responsible of our actions towards values of a specific person. Social accountability is a development or a normal development of medical education that comes from the normal development of all disciplines. If you look at all disciplines, earlier there was a science dominance, and now we move to society dominance. And if we look at the medical education, in frictional reports, it talks about discipline-based education, which is science dominance when we introduce the basic science. And then we move to community-oriented medical education and community-based education when we have the Alma-Ata Declaration, 1978, and Standard Declaration, 2019. And from those community-based and community-oriented medical education, we move forward to social accountability, where the addressing of the society health needs should not be only through education, but should be through education, service, and research. And this has differentiated medical schools into three categories, which are socially responsible, those who are applying the community-oriented medical education, those who are socially responsible, who are applying the community-based, and those who are accountable, who are anticipating the society health needs in their functions that they are providing. The common questions that we have all the time: what makes medical schools socially accountable? And there are lots of answers that we can pull out from the declarations that we have about social accountability, whether the definition itself by WHO or the global consensus for social accountability, or we have some frameworks that describes the principles and of social accountability. But recently, we did a review for the reports came from Embro region about 3 medical schools whom they define themselves are on the way to be social accountable. And we came up with themes or factors that they think it helps them to be social accountable. So it is more practical factors, comes from an experience. Those factors are the mission and governance, communication with the stakeholders, community-oriented and community-based curriculum, provision of health service, and responding to emerging community health needs, impactful faculty and student research. And in a minute, I'm going to talk about each of those factors. In the mission and governance, they think that attending the society health needs should be explicitly described in the mission. So mission should not be a common cliche of that we strive to have excellence in education, service, and research, but we need to explicitly say that we are attending the society health needs. And when we have this mission, then all the factors, all the activities will be derived from the mission. Also, if we have policy to do health need assessments before we start doing our activities, this will help in attending those needs. More than that, they think when they have a strategic plan based on needs assessment, this definitely will help us being socially accountable by attending the society health needs. This factor is crucial. We need to have ongoing communication with the stakeholders. They will not be just once when we start the medical school or when we want to do curriculum reform or when we want to do any activity. But there should be a policy in place where we have all the time, we have discussion with the stakeholders on how can we attend your needs. This can be presented by cross-participation in councils and committees. For example, with Minister of Health or with other stakeholders, such like NGOs. If we have this cross-participation, then we are striving for common agenda between us. Before have this policy of ongoing communication with stakeholders, we need to define who are our stakeholders. The stakeholders may differ from place to place, may differ from country to country, and even may differ from different parts of the country, because the health needs are changing between those different contexts. Still, the stakeholders can be changing. So we need to always, as a medical school, as a health professional institutions, to have a definition of our stakeholders and to have a policy on how can we involve with them and involve them in our work. The all three medical schools, they think that having community-oriented medical education and having community-based medical education strategies in place will help them being socially accountable, because that means they have the basis for ongoing communication with the community. They have the basis of using the community premises in teaching and learning. But it is not enough. We need to have learning outcomes based on society health needs. Maybe we need to move further from community-based education to service learning. And when we have service learning, that means we are satisfying the learning, the needs of society through learning outcomes. Also, one of the factors that help those medical schools to go in the pathway towards social accountability is that they have the opinions of the community in program evaluation and some of the student assessment. This does not mean that we will rely 100% on the community opinion, but it should be part of the assessment, even with a small percentage, because when we send the students to the community, we are not there with them. And there are factors that can be assessed by the students, such as professionalism. So we need to have these things in place, because this will support the relation between medical schools and the communities. The communities will not feel that they are only used for teaching and learning, but they are part of the whole education process. All factors, all frameworks, all principles in social accountability, and also the things that we have from this review, that when we have a special student admission policy from underserved areas, this will help us being more close to the community. There are some literature say that when we have such admission policy, we are helping improving the health status of society indirectly when those graduates go back to their societies. But it's still a controversial issue in different countries. We all, in medical schools, we all provide health professions, health services. We need to have those different levels of provision of health service based on the community needs. We can be part of the primary health care units, as some of our medical schools are. Some of the university, the schools, they have university hospitals. And when we have a university hospital, we need to have a joint plan with Minister of Health on what service to provide. So we don't want duplication of service, or we don't want a service that is not needed by the community. So it should be well planned with Minister of Health or with the health authorities where we are. Use of faculty members' expertise in health services, and training of health professionals, because we have the educational ethos of the work. And if we have joint projects with Minister of Health. Health service is not only something that we are providing because it's part of our mission, but because it gives us a place very close to the communities. When the communities feel that we are providing them with a direct service. Yes, in general, when we are graduating safety or safe health professionals, this is a great help, but it's a remote one. We as human beings, we like to have an immediate benefit. So if there is a medical school or a health professional institution that provide an immediate help, an immediate service to the community, they will be close to it. And there will be more communication with those communities, and we will feel their needs better than just we are reviewing the reports that comes from the health authorities. So we need to have a plan on what service that we can provide based on our expertise, based on our resources, based on the community health needs. Although we have a curriculum, although we have a plan, but we need to have a plan on how to respond to the emerging health needs. And I think what happened in COVID right now tell us that we as medical schools or we as health professional institutions, we need to have a dynamic curriculum. We need to have a dynamic plans to respond to health needs, because health needs are not something that is fixed. Epidemics, endemics, all those types of health needs, we need to have a response to them. We need to respond in outbreaks. We need to offer the community prevention and control measures in terms of by teaching, by providing resources, and more importantly is to have a policy on how to systemically assessing the community needs. As I mentioned in the beginning, we need to anticipate for the community health needs. So we don't need to be responsive, but we want to be anticipative. And when we have this response to the emerging community health needs, definitely we'll be more close to the stakeholders, we'll be more close to the community. There are less written about responding to outbreaks by medical schools, but you will find a lot written about responding to outbreaks by NGOs, responding to outbreaks by ministers of health or health authorities. But still, how do we respond in our curricula? How do we respond in our teaching and learning? How do we respond in our research to outbreaks is not that well documented from medical schools. I cannot say that there is no, but it is not well documented. So we need to think about it, and we need to be more dynamic in order to be socially accountable. All medical schools, they are doing research, whether by faculty or research by students as curricular activity or extracurricular activity. So all those research should be part of the priority health needs and should address those priorities, either to improve the health status or to help in health decision making or to influence policy change or to be as close as possible to the community needs, health needs. When we have those publications, when we have those research, again, we are satisfying some of the stakeholders' agendas. We will be part of those agendas, and we are part of the community concerns. Although they mentioned those 6 factors are helping factors in being socially accountable, still they find some difficulties in being socially accountable. First of those factors is, or difficulties, that the frequent engagement with the stakeholders is not to the maximum. Still there is a gap between us and the stakeholders. And to fill this gap, we need to have a common agenda with them. We need to have the value or the belief that we are completing each other in satisfying the health needs. We are not competing each other. Also, one of the challenges they mentioned is how to address the social determinant of health in the curriculum, especially that social determinant of health are changing. So how can we have a dynamic curriculum? In the literature, you will find a lot about that we need to have a core curriculum and elective curriculum. So the core will be there, and the dynamicity will be with the elective curriculum. One of the issues mentioned by all medical schools who review their pathway to social accountability is that we do not consider cost effectiveness very much. Cost effectiveness does not mean it's part of the cost and value studies, that how much do we spend and what are the gains that we have. And the gains in cost effectiveness may not be only in terms of money. So how can we make a cost and value regarding graduation of one doctor, of graduation of one nurse? Still, we need more studies in this area to tell medical schools and health professional institutions how can we evaluate our impact on the society, which is not a money-based into and compare it with the costs that we pay to do those activities. Those are the factors that comes from the regional research, but it's almost similar to what is there in the literature, because from Canada, we have a research. It says that enablers of social accountability are many, but they start with the vision and mandate, championship, admission policy, we talk about it, community-based learning, we talk about it, governance structure, measurement. The important thing that they mentioned is the accreditation. We need to have an accreditation system that tells medical schools to be socially accountable. Because if we have those standards of accreditation that tells medical schools to be socially accountable, all medical schools, they are going to be socially accountable because they need to be accredited. So to be socially accountable, there are work that should be done within the medical school, but also there is a national or a regional work that should be done through the accreditation system. In a nutshell, to talk about social accountability, we need to talk about our impact in the society, our impact on the health status of the society, the current one and the future one, through our education service, through our research, through our health service that we are providing. And if we think about the impact and our role in the society, definitely we are going to be socially accountable, and we will have a fingerprint in our societies. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.